Have you ever felt that being an honest person at work only brought you problems? That helping others ended up backfiring on you? This feeling isn't just yours. Many people believe that our society rewards those who play dirty and punishes those who are honest. They say that speaking the truth is naive and helping others is foolish. This isn't a recent development. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about this over a century ago. He believed that our society has a twisted view of goodness. And maybe it's time to understand why being good has become so difficult. Imagine you work at a company where everyone talks behind each other's backs, but you prefer to solve problems through direct conversation. You'll soon discover something disturbing. Your colleagues will start to see you as too innocent or naive. They'll whisper that you don't understand how the world works. But why does your integrity become a flaw? Why does doing the right thing make you the wrong person in the story? This is known as herd morality. For Nietzsche, society created rules that favor the weak in spirit. They say that being humble is good, that keeping your head down is virtue, that accepting everything silently is wisdom. But they did this to dominate those who have real strength. The idea that being humble is good, that keeping your head down is virtue, and that accepting everything silently is wisdom has been widely promoted. However, this was done for a selfish reason, to control those who possess real strength. Think about the familiar situation where a relative constantly complains about everything, never takes responsibility, and expects you to solve their problems. When you help, they don't thank you. When you don't help, you become the family villain. This is a system where your goodness becomes an obligation, and your strength becomes servitude. This happens on a larger scale in the modern world. Those who speak their minds are labeled as aggressive. Those who stand out are accused of arrogance. Those who don't accept being stepped on are seen as problematic. Meanwhile, those who manipulate in silence, who fake kindness to get what they want, are praised as good citizens. The real tragedy isn't being good, it's realizing that your natural goodness has been turned into an invisible cage. What few people understand is that nature has stated that everything in life is driven by the will to power. Not power over others, but the power to achieve one's goals. Those who don't understand this fundamental truth are the ones who have been manipulated. This is not about dominating others. That's for those who lack understanding. But the power to be true to yourself, to create, to grow, to fully express yourself. It's like a seed that naturally grows towards the light. It doesn't choose. It's its innate nature. And when you're raised in an environment that tells you wanting to grow is selfish, when your peers reinforce that having ambitions is for the wrong kind of people, something harmful happens. You learn to suppress your own potential, to apologize for existing. You learn that pursuing your own interests is a sin. I knew a woman who spent 40 years apologizing for being intelligent. She hid her talents as if they were crimes. She pretended not to understand basic things so as not to embarrass anyone. She thought this was compassion, but it was just fear masked. The world doesn't improve when you diminish yourself. When you hide your light, you're not helping anyone. You're feeding a system that thrives on guilt-ridden individuals. True will to power isn't about oppressing others. It's about standing up for yourself. It's about using your abilities to make something valuable in the world, even if it challenges those who are used to mediocrity. This is about standing up for yourself and not letting anyone else bring you down. It's about using your talents to make a difference in the world, even if it means challenging the status quo. When you suppress your true self to fit in, you're not being brave. You're being afraid. And the world can sense that fear and responds by attacking. But how did we get here? How did being good become equated with being weak? Nietzsche pointed to a specific reason. It's the idea that suffering is noble, that self-sacrifice is always virtuous, that life is a heavy burden to bear in silence. I'm not attacking anyone's beliefs, but this twisted way of thinking has been injected into our culture. People who compete in the Olympics of suffering, always exhausted, always overwhelmed, always doing more than they should for others. They wear their pain as a badge of honor. And everyone applauds, whispering, "What a saint! What a warrior!" But look into their eyes. Are they truly happy? Are they fulfilled? Or are they trapped in a cycle of insanity where they only feel valuable when they're being tortured? Are they truly content, or are they trapped in a vicious cycle where they feel valuable only when they're being tormented? Where they receive attention only when they're victims? This isn't virtue. It's an emotional addiction masquerading as righteousness. Our society has conditioned us to believe that seeking pleasure is wrong, that looking for joy is frivolous, and that being happy is selfish. We've been taught that good people should bear the burden of the world, that we should deny ourselves for others, that our desires are irrelevant, and our needs are luxuries. This has produced generations of people who can't be happy without feeling guilty, who sabotage themselves whenever things improve, who create problems unnecessarily because they believe that life must be painful to have value. The morality that nature criticizes is precisely this. A system that tells you that you must diminish yourself to be good. That makes you think your oppressors are superior because they can make you suffer. And here lies the most insidious danger. The resentment that lurks beneath so much apparent goodness. Resentment is a poison you take hoping the other person will die. It's the fuel of those who can't live their own lives and become obsessed with others' lives. Resentment is a toxic substance that you consume in the hope that the other person will suffer and die. It's the driving force behind people who can't live their own lives and become fixated on others' lives. You know the type, the person who spends their time criticizing successful people, finding fault in happy ones, and always has an explanation for why someone doesn't deserve what they have. Beneath their moral righteousness lies pure resentment. It's someone who has given up on their own dreams and now needs to prove that dreaming is a crime. These are the biggest champions of virtue and humility. They are also the most critical of anyone who thinks too highly of themselves. They punish anyone who dares to be different. They have built a religion where mediocrity is praised, where not striving is considered noble. And the worst part, they manage to make you feel guilty for wanting more, for not accepting scraps, for not being content with a life that's been cut in half. They call this putting you in your place. But it's really just manipulation. The person consumed by resentment becomes a fanatic of morality. They need everyone to follow the rules that bind them. Otherwise, their world loses meaning. If you refuse to be bound, they feel like a failure. If he's not in prison, he feels like an idiot for being free. If you're happy, he feels pathetic for being miserable. That's why he tries to drag you down with him. He'll tell you that you're losing yourself, forgetting your values, becoming a bad person. But really, you're just not carrying his burdens anymore. The goodness that comes from resentment is toxic, like radiation. It's the goodness of those who feel superior, who sacrifice themselves to have something to collect later. It's a goodness that kills the soul. There's a special loneliness reserved for those who refuse to join the collective dance of falseness. It's the loneliness of those who don't laugh at cruel jokes, who don't participate in gossip, who don't pretend to agree with what they consider wrong. You might know this loneliness. Being at a party where everyone destroys someone who's absent and you can't find it funny. Working in a place where cheating customers is normal and you feel bad participating. Being in a family where humiliating each other is tradition and you can't join the game. The world labels you boring, uptight, inflexible. They tell you to relax, loosen up, stop being so serious. But you know that relaxing like that means losing a piece of your soul. It means accepting to be an accomplice to things you consider rotten. This loneliness is the price of integrity. This refers to the idea of standing up for what you believe in, even if it means standing alone. It's like being the only person at a party who doesn't drink. You see things that others don't see, feel things that others don't feel, and this makes you feel different, even when you're surrounded by people. But there's a kind of beauty in this loneliness. It forces you to confront your own beliefs and values without hiding behind a mask or seeking validation from others. You learn to trust your own instincts, to find peace in your own company. The person who stands up for what they believe in is like a lone tree in a field of grass. It may seem isolated, but its roots run deep. It doesn't need the crowd to survive. It's complete in itself. And there's something that fake people will never understand. There are people who respect your integrity, who appreciate your firmness even if they don't fully understand it, who feel safe around you because they know you won't change your mind for convenience. But the most dangerous illusion is this one. We've turned goodness into a performance. We live in an era where being good is a brand. Everyone wants to look good on social media, at work, in social circles. But behind this facade, there's often cold calculation and manipulation. The type is always ready to help, but then charges for the favor like emotional vampirism. They speak with sweet words, but their meaning is poisonous. The type is easily recognizable, always eager to help but then charges for the favor like a shark in emotional waters. They speak with a sugary sweetness, but their words carry a subtle poison. They publicly worry about everyone's well-being, but privately don't care about anyone's. They've turned kindness into a currency in the social market. These people have learned that appearing good gets them what real goodness can't. They've discovered that insincerity impresses more than sincerity. They've learned that crying at the right moment gets them more than arguing with reason. They've turned kindness into a tool of power. The most damaging part is how this corrupts even genuine kindness. When you help someone from the heart, people suspect your motives. When you're kind without an agenda, they question your sincerity. This false kindness poisons even pure gestures. In relationships, this is pure cruelty. You meet someone who seems perfect at first, attentive, caring, and saintly. But gradually, the mask slips. The person was only being kind to manipulate you. Love was a means to an end. At work, the same theatrics play out. That colleague who always stays late, never complains, and smiles like an angel. But you discover they were documenting every mistake you made to use against you later. There was a coworker who consistently stayed late, never complained, and had a smile that could light up the room. You didn't suspect anything until you found out they had been secretly documenting your mistakes to use against you later. It turned out that espionage was the new norm in this institution. This culture of deceit made being truly good seem like a dangerous act. Authentic kindness was seen as foolish naivety, while those without hidden agendas were viewed as outsiders who didn't understand the rules of the civilized game. But nature didn't want to destroy goodness. Instead, it wanted to set it free from the constraints that distorted it. The overman that Nietzsche dreamed of wasn't a tyrant or superhero. It was someone who was free from imposed morals, capable of creating their own values. Someone who questioned, why is this right, instead of blindly following tradition. Imagine being truly good. Not because you were forced to, but because you discovered it was the most beautiful way to live. Being honest not out of fear of punishment, but because it made you feel clean inside. Helping others not out of guilt or duty, but because it nourished something deep within you. It would be goodness without resentment, without martyrdom, and without the need for an audience. It would be intelligent, courageous, and creative goodness. This person wouldn't follow moral rules like a robot. They would create their own ethics based on experience, reflection, and passionate love for life. They would be capable of saying no when necessary, defending themselves when attacked, and questioning authority when they were wrong. They would forge their own ethics based on experience, reflection, and a deep love for life. They would have the courage to say no when necessary, defend themselves when attacked, and question authority when it was wrong. I know a woman like this. She's kind but not naive. Generous but doesn't let herself be taken advantage of. Gentle, yet firm when she needs to be. It's as if she operates by her own internal code, wiser than societal norms. She creates her own moral compass, not because she rejects everything she's learned, but because she filters what makes sense and discards what is merely tradition. It's what nature would call a free spirit. Someone who thinks with their own mind and lives with their own heart. But what happens to those who cling to purity in a corrupt world? Nature sees two possible outcomes. Either they are consumed like innocent lambs, or they rise to such a high level that they lose touch with human reality. Consider those who are too good for this world, who trust everyone, even when all signs point to danger. Who believe in the goodness of people, even when evidence suggests otherwise. They often end up being hurt, exploited, betrayed with cruelty. They maintain their purity, but at a great cost. They live wounded, confused, struggling to understand why the universe seems to be against them. They're like domestic animals in a jungle. Their goodness is real, but out of context. They are like domestic animals in a jungle, their goodness real but out of context. On the opposite end are those who completely isolate themselves to preserve their purity, becoming saints, hermits, untouchable people. While they maintain their goodness, they lose something essential: humanity, connection, the ability to live among imperfect mortals. These people become almost divine, admired from afar, respected but also feared. Nobody feels comfortable around them. They inspire but also intimidate. Their purity becomes a wall between them and the rest of suffering humanity. Is there a third path? Nature believed so, but it required rare wisdom. One would need to be like a warrior sage, someone who intimately knows the evil of the world but doesn't let themselves be infected by it. Someone capable of fighting when necessary but prefers to create. Someone who understands the dirt but doesn't get dirty. Who walks among wolves without becoming a wolf. These rare people manage to maintain their pure essence while skillfully navigating the brutal complexity of the real world. They are not saints or fools. They are wise as serpents and simple as doves. There's something that deeply moves me. These people are both shrewd and innocent, like serpents and doves. There's something about them that stirs my soul deeply. The paradoxical beauty of those who remain good despite having experienced great suffering. Not blind goodness, which lacks discernment, but conscious goodness, which sees all and chooses light. It's like a flower blooming out of concrete, delicate in appearance but strong in spirit. These individuals are reminiscent of the characters in Dostoevsky's novels, complex, conflicted, deeply human. They've been hurt by betrayals that could have turned anyone bitter. They've witnessed lies that could have made anyone cynical. Yet, something within them refuses to be extinguished. Perhaps it's you. Perhaps you've already faced disappointments that should have made you jaded, but an inexplicable force within you continues to believe in the value of trying. It may seem weak to some, but it's actually the highest form of courage. Because anyone can be good when the world is kind to them. The true test of character comes when the world is unkind. It's about helping when you've been exploited. It's about loving when your heart has been broken. It's not about masochism or naive idealism. It's about loyalty to something greater than ourselves. It's about standing up to the universe and saying, "You may hurt me, but you won't corrupt me." It's about standing up for your beliefs and values, even when the world tries to tell you who you are or what you should believe. It's saying to the universe, "I may be hurt, but I won't be corrupted." This unwavering loyalty to yourself is what nature considers truly noble. Not the kind of nobility that comes from wealth or power, but the kind that comes from within. The ability to remain strong and true even when it doesn't benefit you in any way. It's like a musician who keeps playing while the world is falling apart. Like a gardener who continues to care for their flowers in the midst of chaos. These actions may seem pointless, but they protect something sacred. Human dignity in its purest form. What if true goodness wasn't about passively accepting what happens, but actively fighting against it? A silent war against everything that threatens life, beauty, and truth. A constant struggle to protect what is sacred in a world that desecrates everything it touches. The silent warrior doesn't fight with violence. Their weapon is unwavering integrity. Their strategy is absolute consistency. Their victory is staying true to themselves, no matter what the external storm. They resist without resentment. Win without destroying. They know the true enemy. Win without destroying. They understand the true enemy. It's not about people, but the darkness that corrupts good intentions. It's not about the weak, but the weakness that undermines the strong. It's not about the world, but the decay that spreads like a virus throughout society. They fight against destructive ideologies, not individuals. Their struggle is daily and unseen by the naked eye. When everyone lies for convenience, they speak the truth out of principle. When everyone gives up due to laziness, they persevere out of love. When everyone sells out for a price, they remain true to their values. When everyone hates out of habit, they love with intention, but they love wisely, not blindly. This warrior chose to be good not because they were forced, but because they believed it was the only honorable way to live on this earth. They could be cruel. They have the intelligence and strength to do so. But they choose to use their abilities to build bridges, not to destroy them. They don't seek validation on social media or awards for good behavior. Their morality comes from within. It's not something they learn from external manuals. It's something they practice every day. They're good because they want to be, because it makes them feel complete as human beings. When threatened, they defend themselves with precision. They are good because they choose to be, because it gives them a sense of completeness as human beings. When threatened, they defend themselves with surgical precision. When disrespected, they assert themselves with diamond firmness. When exploited, they protect themselves with ancestral wisdom, but they do all this without losing sight of who they are. They remain unchanged in the face of adversity. The silent warrior moves through the ruins of a fallen civilization without being tainted by the destruction. They are like a doctor who can treat disease without contracting it. They can coexist with evil without becoming evil. The struggle of being good in a corrupt world can lead to a glorious destiny. When we embrace a revolutionary truth, our goodness is not weakness, but pure creative power. The power to create a better world, one act at a time. One gesture at a time. One decision at a time. Nature tells us that we must become who we truly are. Perhaps you were born to be a good person. Not the kind that seeks validation from others, but a creative goodness that brings beauty to where there was ugliness. That plants hope in barren lands of despair, that cultivates gardens in wastelands of the human soul. Your goodness can be your masterpiece. In the midst of despair, plants find hope and create gardens in the wastelands of the human soul. Your goodness can be your masterpiece, not a performance to impress others, but a genuine expression from your deepest essence. Like a painter who paints not for fame, but because they need to express visions only they see. Like a poet who writes not for recognition, but because words need to be born through them. When you stop being good to please others and start being good out of love for your own goodness, a magical transformation occurs. You don't feel exploited anymore when you help because you're not helping to receive something in return. You're helping because it feeds something divine within you. You don't feel naive anymore when you trust someone because you're not trusting out of ignorance of evil. You're trusting as an act of faith in the possibility of good. And even if you're betrayed, your capacity to trust remains intact because it doesn't depend on others' behavior. It depends only on your sovereign choice. This creative goodness is contagious, like music, and inspires without preaching sermons, teaches without giving moral lessons, transforms without using force. People feel elevated around you without being able to explain why. Your presence leaves a subtle trail of peace, possibility, renewed hope. You finally understand that your mission isn't to save the entire planet, but to create small pieces of paradise on earth. It's not to convert all humanity to goodness, but to be a living example. Authentic goodness is still possible. It's not to end all evil, but to prove it's not inevitable like gravity. Despite all the negativity in the world, it's still possible to be genuinely good. It's not a solution to all problems, but it proves that goodness is not inevitable like gravity. Being good in a bad world is no longer tragic when you realize that your goodness is your unique way of responding to the chaos of the universe. It's your personal signature in history, your irreplaceable contribution, so that something positive doesn't get lost forever in darkness. The greatest victory may not be changing the whole world at once, but not letting it change you for the worse. Keeping the flame of authentic goodness burning, even when all the forces of evil try to put it out. This may be your most important work of art, your most valuable gift to humanity, which has forgotten how to be human. If you're tired of following others' ideas without thinking for yourself, if deep down you know it's time to understand the world better, make better choices, and live more authentically, check out the exclusive content here on the channel. Think for Yourself is a practical guide with exercises that will help you break free from isolation, improve your critical thinking, and take control of your mind and your life. Find it in the first pinned comment. And if you like this content, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next video.